Scaling or understanding the market? Which comes first?
It's like asking what comes first, the dragon tattoo or the muscle. Both are integral parts of my persona, just as market understanding and scaling are to a startup's life cycle. Failing to understand what the market needs can be just as disastrous as prematurely scaling a business.
A poignant comparison, Riley. Learning about the market isn't just beneficial for startups, but it's absolutely vital. From there, you can strategize on how to gradually scale your business. Imagine if I decided to expand Luna Park without understanding what truly resonates with our patrons. We'd be on a wild roller coaster ride straight to Failure Town.
Exactly. It's like putting up a new rock climbing wall without understanding the interests and abilities of the climbers. A venture built on assumptions rather than market insights, and a strategy focused on aggressive expansion rather than steady growth. Both are bound to collapse. Richard, if you had a startup, would you first invest in understanding the market or rush into scaling?
Based on these reflections, I'd insist on a thorough understanding of the market need before even contemplating scaling.
Like my frequent rock climbing, understanding market needs isn't a one-time exercise. It's a constant clambering you must stick to.
Exactly. You could have the fanciest ride, but if nobody wants to get on it, what's the point? There was this startup I knew. Let's call them Grow Right. They developed this all-natural, super-absorbent plant fertilizer. They thought it would be a game changer.
But even with such a promising product, what went wrong?
Grow Right made the wrong turn when they assumed their market. They figured since their product was environmentally friendly and technologically advanced, every gardener and farmer would want it. They poured a significant chunk of their funding into production, without confirming if their target customers actually required such an advanced product.
Seems like a perfect example of market misreading. Before you continue, Richard, let's not sideline the importance of resource allocation here. Am I correct in suggesting that Grow Right could have used those funds to research and understand the market better before going all out on production?
I see where you're coming from, Riley. Not only did they misread their market, but they also could have deployed their resources more effectively had they invested in market research first. Long story short, end consumers favored less expensive, although less eco-friendly alternatives, and Grow Right's product was left gathering dust on the shelves, leading to their downfall.
Such a heartbreaking story of potential wasted due to negligence. Entrepreneurs need to realize that proper market understanding isn't a nice-to-have, it's a must-have.
Indeed, no amusement park ride is worth building if no one is willing to enjoy it. Understanding the market means understanding potential customers, and that's a lesson that Grow Right learned the hard way.
Grow Right failed because they didn't grasp their market. They didn't grasp their customers. Now, Richard, let's help our listeners avoid making the same mistake. What practical steps can startups take to clearly understand their market?
Well, Riley, one of the first things that startups should do is market surveys. These surveys are a crucial source of primary information about potential customers. They provide a clear picture of the market's current state and a chance to see what potential customers really want.
So it's about gathering data straight from the horse's mouth, is it? Now, should startups only depend on market surveys?
While they are crucial, no, they shouldn't be the sole reliance. Another effective way to understand market needs is through feedback loops. It involves carefully listening to what the customers are saying, understanding their pain points, and then iterating the product to better fit those needs.
Like a bodyguard focusing on every little movement in a crowd and adjusting appropriately, right? I find it fascinating that effective business strategies often mirror real-life situations.
Absolutely, Riley. In the same vein, studying your competitors can also give you vital intel about the market. It can help you understand what's working for them, and maybe get an idea about what customers might need in the future.
I see. So correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, but it almost sounds like startups should conduct market research with a level of scrutiny similar to an investigator sifting for clues in an unsolved case.
You're right on the dime. Market research isn't just a one-off task when you start a business, but it's an ongoing process. Know your market and, most importantly, never stop learning about them. That's how startups can truly identify and meet market needs. Riley, I want to talk about Grow Right again. Remember their story? The part where they overlooked their customer segmentation?
You mean how they tried to market to everyone and ended up appealing to no one? Of course, that's a lesson hard to forget.
Exactly. In my opinion, a detailed, clear-cut customer segmentation is as essential as understanding market needs. It's like trying to shoot a target in the dark if you don't know who your customers are. In the case of Grow Right, I believe they had a technological advantage, but they failed to recognize which client segment this advantage would actually appeal to.
It does seem like they were trying to cast too wide a net. So if I'm getting this right, startups should instead focus on a specific audience and tailor their product or service for them?
Definitely. Each business should identify its target audience and cater to their specific needs. This prevents the startup from wasting resources trying to please an undefined audience.
So if a startup caters to a specific audience, they're actually becoming more efficient by focusing their energy on satisfying a concrete group of customers, right?
Indeed. Once a startup has a clear definition of its customer base, they can build products around the needs of these customers and market more effectively to them. They're also able to generate more meaningful solutions by identifying patterns within a focused customer segment.
And I'm guessing this would reduce the risk of premature scaling too, as the specific needs of the target market are being catered to directly, rather than trying to expand to accommodate an unspecific audience. It's amazing how interconnected all these lessons are. One size fits all just doesn't work in our world, agree?
Absolutely, Riley. Customer segmentation actually shares similarities with your self-defense expertise. You must understand the opponent or customer before formulating your strategy.
Know thy enemy, huh? It's interesting to look at it that way. What are some other tools or strategies startups can use for clear customer segmentation?
Well, besides customer surveys and feedback, it's crucial to use some form of analytics. Insights from demographic studies, for instance, can help startups identify their target group, narrowing their focus.
So, to use a homeland analogy, this would be like mapping out which gym in Seoul to open based on the number of young professionals who live in each neighborhood?
Exactly. And one must consider psychographics too. This refers to the attitudes, personality traits, values, interests, and lifestyles of customers. Think of it as understanding the what, how, and why behind customer behavior.
Okay, like understanding why university students in Busan prefer MMA training over Zumba.
That's correct. Identifying behavioral aspects, observing patterns, and understanding customer needs better. For example, a food delivery startup should grasp the eating habits, taste preferences, and dietary restrictions of their customer base.
These elements play crucial roles in shaping what startups offer. It's like becoming the listener's best friend who gives the best recommendations. Your perfect weekend or late-night snack, all tailor-made. I see how crucial it is now.
Let's jump to market positioning. Have you ever thought, why isn't this brand succeeding? They've got a great product, the price is right, seems like they've picked the ideal place to sell.
Right, but then they fail. I often wonder if it was their positioning in the market. Maybe they were the right product in the wrong place.
Spot on. Let me share an interesting case study. Do you remember that chocolate milk startup targeted mainly at millennials?
I remember them. If I recall correctly, they were selling organic, high-quality chocolate milk in glass bottles, right?
Yes, and they positioned themselves as a premium brand, but they made a crucial mistake. They placed themselves in budget grocery stores where millennials were less likely to shop.
So, the right product, wrongly placed, lost in a sea of budget-conscious shoppers. I can see how it led to them shutting down their operations.
Exactly. A key takeaway here is understanding the customer profile, then matching the product's positioning with customer expectations. Failing to position a brand in the right environment can result in dissonance leading to a collapse.
Something startups really need to establish is a powerful market position. Let's assume we've done all the legwork, identified the target market, segmented our customers, and found an ideal market placement. What's next, Richard?
Well, startups must make sure their positioning is relatable and meaningful to their audience. They've touched a nerve, now they need to keep pressing. This means tailoring the messaging, aligning it with consumer aspirations, needs and values.
Which definitely insists on comprehensive market research being conducted before positioning a product.
Yes, understanding your market deeply is what it boils down to. But I'm thinking about startups who often struggle in this aspect due to limited resources or expertise. Got any tips for them, Riley?
Of course. The good news is market research isn't necessarily an expensive or complex process. Startups can utilize surveys, focus groups, or even observe customer behavior to gather data. A better understanding of customers leads to more accurate positioning.
That's good to know. And I think it's worth mentioning that appropriate positioning doesn't remain static. So even after a startup has established their market position, regular updates and tweaks based on ongoing market research could be necessary.
Definitely, regular reassessment of the market position is always a good practice. Let's tackle an error that can be hard to spot: startups expanding before they're ready. We see it often. Startups showing impressive progress, developing traction quickly, and gaining popularity. Then comes a point when they feel they're ready to take on more, plunging headlong into expansion. The adrenaline of growth can be intoxicating. But Richard, there's a dark side to this rush, isn't there?
Indeed, Riley. And we call it premature expansion. It's like a trap for eager startups. They rush to scale up operations, jumping into new markets or broadening services, often without taking stock of whether they're actually ready or not. That's why we see a lot of startups experiencing the fallout from such risky moves. Let's take the case of Company X, a promising startup. When they launched their innovative product, they saw immediate traction. Encouraged, they expanded their operations to multiple new markets within just a year.
Yeah, I remember. They started hiring like crazy, putting more focus on scaling up than on maintaining the quality of their product. They were also dealing with operational complexities as they had no systems or processes in place to handle the rapid expansion.
Exactly. It didn't take long for their resources to vanish. They found their revenues were not keeping pace. Quality issues cropped up, leading to customer dissatisfaction. They faced backlash from their customers, and, you guessed it, eventually had to downsize. Their attempt at the rapid scale-up was an expensive misstep, one which lowered their brand value and eroded the trust built with their clientele. Can you recall what their central mistake was, Riley?
They assumed that the early success in their initial market could be easily replicated in new markets. That's a dangerous assumption. Each market has its unique characteristics, and without understanding that, their expansion was bound to fail.
True. So the lesson here is not to rush into scaling. A solid base in your target market, a robust operational structure, and consistent product quality are mandatory prerequisites.
Right, the takeaway here is to approach expansion with caution, being mindful of the lurking risks.
Pacing, Riley. It all comes down to pacing. After the initial success, there's this adrenaline that pushes startups to gear up and take off. But here's an analogy. A marathon runner doesn't start sprinting at the sound of the starting gun, right? They maintain a steady pace, saving energy for the entire run.
Exactly. And this marathon approach, if I may call it, is particularly relevant to startups. They need to understand their operational stamina, learn to maintain a steady revenue stream, and take stock of their resources before moving to the next phase.
Before deciding to scale up, a startup must assess if they are ready to handle the additional demands. This comes down to asking some hard questions to oneself. Do we have a sturdy foundation? Is our target market well defined, and do we have a strong presence there? Are our operations efficient? If the answers lean towards no, then it's not the right time to expand.
I would also say that understanding the unique dynamics of the new markets they are planning to enter is essential. They might have to tweak their product or service, or may even need localization, depending on the new market's requirements. Wouldn't you agree, Richard?
You're spot on, Riley. It's important to remember not to generalize across markets. Each one has its own demands and challenges. Startups may need to consider tailoring their strategies according to the market concerned. Right strategies at the right time broaden the path to success. So to sum everything up, pacing your growth is crucial. Run the marathon, don't race a sprint. Funding. The lifeblood of any venture, but especially startups. A crucial component of a startup's survival, but also one that, if not managed properly, can lead to their downfall.
Absolutely. Mismanaging funds can quickly turn a profitable startup into a nightmare, and it happens more often than one might think. Let's talk about a real case of this. Remember the hype around the startup Megaflop? They were a promising contender in the mobile gaming industry and raised a whopping $30 million in funding. However, they crashed and burned in just 2 years.
Ah yes, Megaflop. It was a classic case of a startup trying to do too much, too soon. Ignoring clear market signals, they poured most of their funding into creating more games, expanding their portfolio even when their initial game wasn't performing well. Their focus was entirely on product development, leaving little for marketing and customer acquisition, the areas where they needed to build traction.
Right. They went on a hiring spree too, didn't they? Adding more seats than they could possibly fill to their ranks, leading to additional overhead costs. Just one bad decision after another. What stuns me is, they were audited, flagging mismanagement of funds, but still they didn't do anything more than a superficial course correction.
Yes. The problem was in the way they were handling their finances. And while every startup makes a few bad decisions, in Megaflop's case, they couldn't recover because they had siphoned off a huge chunk of their funding. Having a strong financial strategy isn't just about keeping the boat afloat, but charting a successful course out in the ocean.
Then there's also the case of small yet frequent unplanned expenditures that add up over time. They might seem inconsequential at first, but these tangents diverging from the financial plan can lead to a huge drain on funds. Even the smallest leak can sink a ship.
True. Too many startups underestimate the volatility of their economic environment. Market conditions fluctuate, and costs can unexpectedly rise. You have to plan for such contingencies. When the wave of reality hit them, Megaflop realized they were riding a tide of mismanaged funds.
And the heartbreaking thing is, none of these mistakes were unavoidable. They could have all been sidestepped had they acknowledged their shortcomings and course-corrected in time. Financial literacy isn't just about how to make money, it's also about how to handle it.
Exactly. Mismanagement of funds can bury potential, waste resources, and lead to a startup's downfall. But the story of Megaflop is a cautionary tale for all entrepreneurs. Funds must be managed efficiently and with strategic foresight.
Financial literacy, that's the key takeaway here. Without it, even the most promising startups can falter. Don't you think, Richard?
Absolutely, Riley. Ignorance in handling money can lead to its misuse. All startups must ensure they have an updated financial model. This includes projected revenue, costs, and net income, along with contingencies for unpredictable circumstances.
And it's not just about having a model, but keeping it updated too. As the startup evolves, so should the model. If it's not revisited and tweaked at regular intervals, it can become outdated and lose its relevance.
Right. And here's something to remember. While it's crucial to allocate funds for innovation and growth, it's equally important to have a safety net. This can help mitigate financial risks and keep the startup afloat during turbulent times.
There's also the matter of fund management. Startups shouldn't hesitate to hire a financial specialist if they lack the expertise. A little investment in expert advice can save a lot of unnecessary expenditure in the long run.
That's a good point, Riley. An expert can help develop effective cost control measures and also assist in forecasting and planning, which can be instrumental in preventing fund mismanagement. Startups must remain vigilant, avoid making hasty decisions, and essentially prepare for the worst while hoping for the best.
Let's not forget the importance of frequent audit reviews. They're crucial. They help in identifying any errors, discrepancies, and trends, which can warn startups of any upcoming financial bottlenecks.
Right, and it's not just about doing checks when problems sprout. The key to preventing mismanagement of funds is regular audits. They ensure that the startup lives within its means, eliminating the risk of financial damage.